I saw this article in the Washington Post about the mental health proposal being floated, and I gotta say, the more I hear him talk about, the president talk about mental health, the more freaked out I get, honestly. It really seems like just like sci-fi dystopia. They want to do something named like DARPA, which is the notorious Pentagon research association, called HARPA. Okay? Right. It's going to develop breakthrough technologies with high specificity and sensitivity for early diagnosis of neuropsychiatric violence. Right. The document goes on to list a number of widely used technologies it suggests could be employed to help collect data. Apple Watches, Fitbits, Amazon Echo, and Google Home. Yeah. Whatever they're doing on guns, the mental health stuff they're talking about strikes me as genuinely scary stuff.
We must seek real bipartisan solutions. We have to do that in a bipartisan manner that will truly make America safer and better for all. First, we must do a better job of identifying and acting on early warning signs. I am directing the Department of Justice to work in partnership with local, state, and federal agencies, as well as social media companies, to develop tools that can detect mass shooters before they strike. As an example, the monster in the Parkland High School in Florida had many red flags against him, and yet nobody took decisive action. Nobody did anything. Why not? Third, we must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence, and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement. Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun. Fourth, we must make sure that those judged to pose a grave risk to public safety do not have access to firearms, and that if they do, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process.
It's estimated there are about 120 million smart speakers in homes across the U.S. But Don Dahler reports sometimes Amazon's Alexa isn't the only one listening.
In the sci-fi classic 2001, A Space Odyssey, a sentient computer keeps an eye and ear on the human it's meant to help.
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
Not unlike today's digital assistants.
Alexa, turn on the fan.
Okay.
But according to an investigation by Bloomberg News, that Alexa in your home isn't the only one listening in. Amazon has thousands of employees poring over audio clips, some allegedly recorded when owners didn't know Alexa was eavesdropping. Amazon confirmed the recordings in a statement, explaining that the information helps us train our speech recognition and natural language understanding systems, so Alexa can better understand your requests.
My first reaction was, this is creepy, but it's not surprising at all.
Wired Magazine editor-in-chief Nicholas Thompson.
If you put a recording device in your home, stuff in your home will be recorded.
According to the report, Amazon workers hear up to 1,000 audio clips a day that sometimes include personal conversations, even among children, sounds from private moments, and potentially criminal activities such as sexual assault. Amazon says those employees do not know the identities of the people they're listening to.
Amazon says Alexa is only supposed to record when you say the wake-up word, Alexa, but sometimes it turns on by mistake.
Welcome to my chambers. The right to keep and bear arms, the right to self-defense, the right to self-protection, the right to use a weapon to protect yourself and your family and your loved ones of the same level of sophistication as a weapon that the bad guys would have is a fundamental personal liberty that every adult in the United States has. That's not from me. That's from the Supreme Court of the United States, and it has since been reaffirmed by the court in another case after the first one that articulated that. I say that because that right is under assault as we speak. And we all know how this came about. These horrible shootings, there have been so many of them. It's almost tough to keep them straight in your mind. Every time one of these mass killings comes about, the reaction of the big government crowd is the same: take away guns. Put aside what would solve these things. I happen to think that more guns in the hands of trained people and getting rid of gun-free zones, which are basically killing zones, would put a stop to these. But I want to talk to you about the constitutional implications here because they're profound. You see, the President of the United States and even Republicans in the Senate are so fearful of the political reaction if they don't do anything that they are prone to do something, and the something they might do might actually impair your freedom. Here's what they want to do. Democrats want to confiscate weapons, literally knock on your door and take the weapon from you and not even pay you for it. That's patently unconstitutional and never happened. Republicans have a more subtle way of doing it. They have a euphemism called red flag laws. A red flag law would let your relative, your neighbor, your friend call the police and say, so-and-so's having a bad day today, and I don't think he should have his gun, because I'm worried about what might happen with the gun in the future. And if a complaint is filed and a judge holds a hearing and the judge decides what might happen in the future, the judge can take the weapon away from you. Well, that shouldn't happen in America. We're not talking about a driver's license to drive on a government-owned street. We're talking about a personal fundamental liberty, the right to self-protection. This is the same level of protection as your freedom of speech. The government can't silence you because of what you might say in the future. It can't take your lawfully owned weapon from you because of what a judge says you might do with it in the future. The Republicans are a little cagey here as well. They want to make it easy for judges to do this. Look, if the government wants to charge you with a felony and prosecute you for it, they must prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. That's a very high standard of proof. But these red flag laws have a very low standard of proof. The standard is it more likely than not that this person might do something wrong with the gun in the future? If that's the standard for taking away our freedoms, more likely than not, as opposed to proof of guilt of a crime beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty, as the law requires today, then none of our freedoms is safe. And if the government can take away your right to self-defense on a theory of what you might do in the future, as opposed to what you did do in the past, what freedom will they go after next? Welcome to my chambers.